Hello, friends. Here we are. This is the CAT 2023 analysis. Today is the 27th of November, Monday. This is the day after 26th of November, Sunday, the C day, the CAT day for the CAT 2023. Yesterday, we have released the analysis video slot-wise of each of the CAT exams, of each of the shifts. You can catch that on our YouTube channel, on the Erudite YouTube channel. And in this video, we will be discussing the various sections. So the overall paper in the various sections. Let's first talk about the paper overall. So we saw a bit of a shift in some of the questions in the verbal subsection in the first section, and there was a shift in the mix of questions for the quants. Most everything else for this year's paper remained the same. The level of difficulty was tweaked slightly, but otherwise it remained a no surprise paper as compared to last year. So we had the same number of questions section wise overall. We had 24 questions in the first section, 20 in the second section, and 22 in the third section. That totaled to 66 questions overall. And we had 40 minutes of time for each of the subsections, each of the sections. That adds to 120 minutes total. The first section was moderate. It was similar, slightly easier, could have been. I believe it's a matter of the question mix. So there was some shifts which had slightly more medium questions. There were some other shifts which had slightly more difficult questions. So it's that mix that has been tweaked. It's not overall easier. Most students believe that this year's VRC was comparatively the easiest section. Now, VRC was comparatively the easiest. The key word is comparatively. So let's not make any mistakes. It was not easy. It was a medium section, but comparatively easier. The lengthiness of the paper was similar, not much change from last year. The LRDI was slightly easier in the sense that there was one set which was manageable about per shift. One set could be done, not with too much effort, not taking too much time. The rest were tough, but this is just as tough as last year was. So not much difference there. So by that one set, we are talking about maybe just a notch easier as compared to last year. The quants was tougher than last year, which is surprising. The CAT doesn't always do that. Tougher than last year, there was a change in the sub-area weightage. Now, this was a very algebra heavy paper. Of course, the AAG was still featured. There was still a good number of questions from arithmetic. The higher number of questions were from arithmetic, and there were also questions from geometry. Higher math and number system are further reduced. In fact, there were one or two shifts where there were two shifts. The first one had no number system questions. The third shift had no higher math questions. This might be an identification issue. We'll know more and in specific when we get the actual question papers. But as of now, we see that it remains concentrated around AAG, arithmetic, algebra, geometry, but algebra now a bigger, beefier stake than last year. So overall, paper was moderate to tough, just as tough as last year was. The downshift in difficulty here would balance out the upshift in difficulty here. This was approximately at par, so not much different. So we are expecting a similar or slightly higher overall difficulty, and we are also expecting a similar or slightly higher cutoff as compared to last year. Let's talk about the VARC section. Discussing RC first. We had medium to tough passages. Not very difficult, manageable. Some of them were manageable. Some were a little dense, but could also be done. The length was the same as last year, 490 to 520 words per passage. 16 questions overall. We had four passages and 4 questions per passage. So into 4 passages. It was a fair mix of direct and inferential questions. The CR questions, so the strengthening and weakening type of question. Strengthen, weaken. These questions were featured a bit more. So that means that presumptions and presuppositions, forming an idea before actual applying actual logic of qualification, logic of elimination on the answer options might have caused mistakes. So they may have caused problems. This could backfire a little bit with students who were taking it lightly. Otherwise, the overall difficulty of the RC section was moderate to tough. It was slightly tougher than VA. The VA was slightly easier as compared to last year. The RC slightly tougher. So RC a bit on the increase, bit on the rise. VA a bit on the decline in terms of difficulty. If we talk about the RC shift-wise, then we see that there were passages on environmental issues, environmental degradation, environmental issues, climate change in each of the shifts. So that is very surprising. If there was ever a topic type in RC, a passage topic type, which was prominent, then this seems to be taking the larger piece of the pie. The first shift had one passage on the origin of international trade. This talked about a misconception about how international trade started, but it says that it started actually when the Silk Route was developed, which is a trade corridor between the Orient and the West. The second shift had a passage on Netflix. The third shift had a literature passage on romantic aesthetics. This was very name heavy. So writers, poets, literatures, etc., and even perhaps works. So could have been a dense passage to handle. There was one on archaeological discoveries. Most passages were manageable. Overall difficulty slightly relaxed, but chances of making mistakes is still moderate. So we should be careful about this section. Score for a high percentile is expected to be similar or slightly higher than 2022. Now, let's talk about the verbal section, verbal subsection. This is where we had one of the biggest changes, the biggest surprises from last year. From the 3+3+2 system that was active till 2022, this was removed, and now we had a 2-into-4 kind of a system, which was instituted this year. So we had 2 summary questions, 2 odd man out questions. The odd man out questions made a comeback. 2 para-jumbles, these were both 4-liners, and the para-completion, which the students generally identify as fill-in-the-blanks type questions. So these were removed, but I remember discussing in class that my prediction was that either they are going to keep the 3-3-2 model, where they could go back to odd statement, or they could come back to, or they could continue with the para completion, or they could go for all the types, all the 4 types, and balance it out with 2 questions each. That's exactly what happened this year. So we had a total of 8, 2 from each subsection. The para completion was slightly tougher than last year, because last year these questions were freshly introduced without any indication before the exam. So the CAT panel, the question setting panel, would have thought about the students that we should not make this very difficult. But this year they were tougher because students have a precedent of this. Odd one out, it was reintroduced this year. So again, the CAT panel would have identified that many students might not have prepared so well with the odd man. So this one was more moderate. The rest were balanced. So medium to tough, medium to tough. We had theta questions in the odd man and theta questions in the 4-liners. So we had 4 theta questions, 2 and 2 all together, all total. This increases the number of theta questions by 1. Talking about these shift-wise, there was not much difference by shift, barring one aspect. So across the shifts, we had a decent balance, a fair balance between medium and tough questions. Para completion was slightly tougher than last year. Odd statement was easier than 2021, when last it was featured. In the second shift, there were reports of 1 odd statement question being mandatory. This is very interesting because it has been reported by multiple sources. So it is not something which is in doubt. It is not a false report, but it is interesting that CAT would not institute a pattern change, such a big pattern change, where this question was mandatory, as in you could not go to the other questions without answering this question. So this question could not be left out. Such a change would be introduced here and not in any of the other shifts. That is surprising. So this might have been a glitch in the CAT software, in the exam software, but that is something that we'd have to see when we get the actual question paper. In the meantime, there were reports of one odd statement question being mandatory in shift 2. No such report in shift 1 or shift 3. Overall difficulty was easier compared to last year. Score supposed to be for this subsection, it would be slightly higher, but we don't have subsectional scores, or we have subsectional scores, but not subsectional cutoffs. So we would expect that the overall cutoff for this section, the difficulty as such, the difficulty would have been slightly relaxed, but we considered similar. For the overall thing, we would expect a similar or maybe a slightly higher cutoff as compared to last year. So that covers the VARC section. Now I'm going to hand over the analysis to Joyanta sir. He'll continue with the LRDI section, details of the LRDI section, and then Sudeep will take over for the quants section. So well done, everyone. And we'll talk more when we meet for classes and see what we need to do in the future. On to you, sir.
Hi, all viewers. Let us get the overall view about CAT 2023 paper. All slots are already over, and we have received a lot of such reactions from the students, those who have appeared in different slots. We will here share our observation, and me, Joyantu sir, from Erudite, Kolkata, and want to go for this discussion about this CAT 23. Here, I will discuss these LRDI sections of CAT 23. Let's get some idea about it. In this LRDI section, CAT 23, first perception, that is the section which we expected that in CAT 2022, it was tougher. So in 23, maybe it would be better, but not. It remained more or less similar. That means it is one of the top section to crack. Now, if I go to this view for these particular sections, we will be able to find that there is no any change in compared to our CAT 2022. In 22, whatever it has appeared, as per our technicality, as per our data, the total number of questions, it remains same, referred to our last, which is nothing but 20. And number of sets, it remains 4. Per set, questions 5. Here, all of the sets we can say as logical reasoning set. We cannot differentiate any kinds of data interpretation set. And the point of level of difficulty, if I say that we will not be able to say that it was easier in compared to our last year. More or less, it remains same. Maybe somewhere it will be more difficult also. Let's get some further idea about this one. We can find it out that overall, these with reference to CAT 22, first idea that we want to give, that with respect to our last year. See, whenever students was writing these different mock in this particular year, they were thinking that why this is that much, LRDA section is that much tough. Cracking that is not at all easy. Huge amounts of puzzle and logic, it has been applied in this entire part, and that was remaining similar. Similar means it is remain same kinds of toughness to crack this particular segment. Now, if I go to these different level of it, that means one by one compared to these slot wise. So slot wise analysis, if I say, I can see this trend, whatever it was from last year, that same trend it has followed. Like it is not like that easiest is the slot one, then the second, then the third. This way, it is not increasing. It remain more or less similar. We can see that second slot looks like it is the toughest. toughest. We can consider the third slot and first slot is comparatively easier than second. It is just initial perception that we can find. Now, I will try to discuss about the major target for the students. Major target, what they need to do. Their major target, I can say it is nothing but selection. If you make a proper selection, then only you will be able to crack number of questions which should be uh, definitely better to you. Like here, out of these four sets, which are all looks like it would be no one is too easy. But out of that, which one would be the easiest and which one is the toughest? These two selection is a very important part. Toughest, I will not touch, and the easiest, I will try to start with this. But also, easiest also you can crack initially, that no one can say. But if there is any kinds of target or any kinds of opportunity of data interpretation involved, at least some part, then there is a chance that cracking of this particular one will be easier. Like in slot one, we have seen that one kinds of idea that there was one table informations as per the rating concern. We got that idea. There was in case of our second slot, no, in case of our first slot, we have seen there was one kinds of slot wherever MBA college faculty, they have given some kinds of rating, and it was actually some mean median mode informations also given, but it was comparatively looks like some bit of DI involved in this case. But still, whenever questions you can find, it would be if true, this way information is given, maybe true, these kinds of options also given. Probability based, it looks like probability based, not definitely direct probability calculations, but probable answers, like whatever it is. In that also you can see decision making kind of thing, so it looks like similar kind of approach it has been taken also. So not easy, definitely not easy, this particular segment here. Cracking it, it would be tougher for a good number of students also. Sets distribution, if I try to consider that sets distribution, what we will be able to say? We can say that direct DI, no, not at all. That means finding chart or finding some kinds of informations in pie diagram or line diagram and then directly solving it. These types of thing was missing. It's not there. But definitely logic based and information you can find, and some kinds of calculation, bare minimum, some kinds of things we need to do. These types of thing it was present. So students need to find it out that sets directly arrangement or directly DI, which normally people prefer. That would not be the scenario in this case. Our other idea as far the sets concern, which is the depth. Depth of sets is definitely high. Always this one is high, depth of set. That means no one we can find that this question easily will be able to do. You need to understand, you need to go beyond it, and then you can crack that particular set. That is the way LRDI. So it is same trend from CAT 2022 that LRDI section cracking is really tough. Students need to work hard to go into that, to do these particular sections achievable to you. That is the way, and that is our discussion. We will come up with individual set solution, video solutions and everything after the after CAT publish their questions to the students who will be able to find it out. For the time being, this is Jayantu sir from Erudite Kolkata, and you will find these other sections also from here.
Hello everyone, this is Sudeep Shah. So today we will do the analysis of CAT 23 QA section. So here we'll do the overall analysis of the QA section across all the 3 slots. Now to start with, as you already know, that in all the 3 sections or 3 slots, we had 22 questions in QA across all the 3 slots. Now, as you know, in QA section, there are 2 types of questions. One is theta, there is MCQ, which is more frequent. Now, number of theta questions across all the 3 slots has been same as 8. Generally, it is 5 to 6 questions in other years, but this year it has been 8. A little increase, but nonetheless, it doesn't matter much. Now, to talk about the topic-wise dissection, arithmetic, as expected, had the major share of questions. So we had around 8 to 9 questions from arithmetic. And we had questions from all the regular topics that we generally do in class. That is percentage, profit and loss, time, speed and distance, time and work, okay, SICI, ratio proportion, all the topics that we got, mixture allegation especially. Now, one only exception is the clock. In slot 1, we got 1 question from clock. Otherwise, there is no aberration or deviation from the regular topics. Now, difficulty-wise, some people reported that the questions were, some questions, slot 1, couple of questions or 1 or 2 questions were moderately easier, comparatively easier, but other questions were moderate or difficult. But nonetheless, in every questions, the explanation, the solution was lengthy or time-consuming. Lengthy means to solve a certain question, you have to do multiple steps or a long number of steps, which is a little unusual compared to other years or compared to previous years of CAT. Now, one major surprise, if we may put it that way, has been the number of algebra questions. Generally, we get algebra in previous years, we got algebra 4 to 5 questions in general. But this year, it has been as good as arithmetic. So depending on the slots, we had around 7 to 8 questions coming from algebra. So people saw or people had seen a lot of algebra questions all over. So that came as a little surprise. Okay. And algebra were the regular topics like linear equation, quadratic equation, inequation, APGP questions were there. Then logarithm, as usual, we found. And the difficulty level, I would put it as above average to difficult. Okay. In slot 2 and slot 3 were very difficult, rather difficult compared to slot 1, little bit. Slot 1 was comparatively easier, but slot 2 and slot 3 had difficult questions, no doubt about that. It was challenging for a student as well as for experts who went there to check out CAT questions or CAT patterns. Geometry, as usual, there were 3 questions, okay, roughly 3 questions across every slots. Some slot may have 4 questions, but very unlikely. So 3 is the normal figure or the well-regarded figure. And question appeared from triangles, lines and angles, and one question came from polygon also. Okay. Number system, although anyway, number system, the importance of number system has decreased or diminished considerably. This year, in 2 slots, we had 1 question each from number system. At least 1 question I remember that is from factor. In both slot 2 and slot 3, we got question from factor. Now, the factor question is not based on the factor formulas, not based on formulas, but the analytical approach of factors. They asked them to find the number of factors which is less than 50 based on some condition. So you have to do the analytical approach, or you have to do analytical estimation of the number of factors. Okay. And higher maths, as expected, for the last couple of years, higher math has been negligible or had no participation in CAT across all the slots. This year also same. Only in slot 1, we got 1 question based on function. Otherwise, in other slots, every slot, there was no question on permutation, combination, probability. Only 1 slot had function. Other slots has no function question or graph or any other thing. So as you can see that the almost 70% of the questions came from the 2 blocks, arithmetic and algebra, and of course, geometry. So just it conformed to our erudite way of learning, that is ARG. Arithmetic, algebra, and geometry had 90% share of the questions. But of course, the questions level were considerably difficult. So I would say the overall difficulty level was above moderate to difficult. Okay. So difficult question papers. In all the three sorts, the question paper were difficult. That is the common refrain or the common standpoint, which is true. Now, if we talk about the cutoff, then I would say that the cutoff this year is going to be considerably lower compared to CAT 22. In CAT 22, the cutoff for 99 percentile last year was 32. And this year, it is going to be significantly lower. No doubt about that. Significantly lower. Okay. Now, most of you have not done well in quant section. So for them, I would say you should not lose heart. You should not feel demotivated because everybody faced the same paper. Everybody is going through the same situation. Therefore, all of them would score lesser. So there is no need to worry about that. Okay. Everybody will get a lesser score. So will you. So it's fine. No problem. So people will get into IIMs with lesser scores. So it doesn't matter. Okay. So cheer up. Now prepare for the next exams like XAT and symbiosis. Those two are completely different exams. So you should prepare right away by looking at their paper question papers. Get in touch with us, right? And we will again start giving you directions for preparing for XAT and SNAP and also Narsimonji. Okay. So with this, I am signing off. Wish you all the best for your future exams. Bye, everyone.